of the student paper competition. So again, this is our second student paper competition organized by SIG-AH and SIG-Viz. And this year, we focused specifically on indexing and retrieval on non-textual information. And I was actually really happy to see that there is some interest in this topic, both from an empirical research perspective as well as examining images more from, practice perspective, like images in video collections, and one of the papers is specifically on images in newspaper collection. So earlier this year, we issued an open call for papers encouraging participation from a variety of theoretical empirical perspectives, and we invited graduate level submissions from a broad range of disciplines, including arts, humanities, library and information science, and computer science. And just like last year, we had two categories, one for master's students and the other one for PhD students. So the presentations that you will hear today emerged as a result of this competition. Two winners of the best papers in the master's and the PhD category were invited to this online symposium. So it's my pleasure to introduce the winners of the competition. Harim Cho, the winner of Best Paper in the PhD category, and she won the award for her paper, An Empirical Investigation on Illustrators' Image Information Needs, in which she reports the findings of the image information needs of illustrators who highly depend on image information and who create images themselves. And the winner of the Best Paper in the Master's category is Lisa Pratt, and she won her award for the paper Latent Images, Non-Textual Information in Digitized Historical Newspapers, in which she examines the topic of retrieving non-textual items from digitized newspapers. So we will start with Harim Cho presentation. Let me just talk a little bit about her background. She's a PhD candidate at the University of Washington Information School. She's currently in her fourth year of her PhD program. Her main interests are specifically in knowledge organization and information behavior of multimedia information, and that includes images, art, music, video games, and manga. She has background in humanities. She has both a BA and master's degree in library information science, as well as English, a degree in English and art history. She completed her undergraduate master programs at the Women's University in South Korea. So welcome, Harim. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Can you hear me well? Okay. So hello, everyone. It is very nice to meet you all virtually today. My name is Harim Cho, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington Information School. Today, I'm going to talk about my paper on empirical investigation on Illustrators' image information needs. Although we will have a short Q&A time right after my presentation, if we don't have enough time, please feel free to email me your questions later. I'll be happy to answer them. Then, let's begin. These days, users searching for images are not limited to relying upon a small number of sources or search strategies. There's a wide variety of available image retrieval services out there, including search engines, image databases, blogs and websites, and even social media. Despite the increasing interest in image retrieval in academia, along with the development of new image retrieval tools and technologies, there is a lack of studies investigating image users. In fact, most studies on image information have focused on the technical aspects of image retrieval, like content-based image retrieval studies, which utilize the textures, colors, or shapes of images to search them. However, Since the ultimate goal of image databases and other image-related services is to help users realize image search or browse tasks, it is essential for us to understand their image information needs and behaviors to improve the system design. So this study aims to provide user-centered perspectives to current image information studies, especially heavy image users' perspectives. Although image professionals can provide rich data on their image information needs and behavior due to their heavy use of image information in their daily work, most of previous user studies in the domain have focused on general users who use image information sporadically for additional reference. Different image user groups have different image information needs and searching strategies, and the expectations for image databases and retrieval services should differ depending on different user groups. Moreover, we currently lack data from image professional groups who rely heavily on image information on a daily basis. It may indicate that we are missing valuable information to improve the current image retrieval services. Therefore, to fill this gap, this study aims to investigate the image information needs of currently working professional illustrators. Let's talk about the illustrators briefly. So illustrators are the people who draw illustrations, which are images in media, mainly those in prints, such as advertisement posters, book covers, packaging, illustration books, brochure, games, and so on. Thanks to their broad line of work that is related to all different types of images, and the fact that they also create images by themselves, it makes them a great subject population for this study. The goal of this study is to investigate the image information needs of professional illustrators and provide the basis for comparing the image information needs between general image users and image professionals. By doing so, this study aims to contribute to creating and evaluating image databases and retrieval systems by offering empirical findings. In order to achieve the study objective, I had two research questions to answer. The first research question is, what are the characteristics of illustrators' image information needs? What kinds of images do they need, and why and when do they need those images? And the second research question is, do image professionals and general users have different image information needs? If so, how are they different, and for what reason? So in order to answer these research questions, survey and semi-structured interview methods were used in the study. The survey questionnaire was constructed based on the framework of several related studies, and it is distributed to 3 major online illustrators communities in Korea. These websites were selected based on pilot interviews with 2 professional illustrators. The online link to the survey questionnaire was distributed to these online communities so that any illustrators willing to participate in the study could voluntarily join. 3 illustrators were recruited for the following semi-structured interviews. These interviews were recorded and transcribed for data analysis. However, it should be noted first that the semi-structured interviews were not conducted for data triangulation, but only for helping the author and readers to understand the survey results by hearing the artist's voices, since the number of interview participants was very limited. Illustrators who joined the interviews were recruited by a snowball sampling method. The first 2 professional illustrators were recruited through a comic book arts academy located in Seoul, and these 2 illustrators recommended the last illustrator. So after collecting all the responses from the participants, the survey results were statistically summarized by Google Forms. Answers for open-ended questions were also organized separately by the software. Transcribed interviews were thematically analyzed using Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel based on the commonly occurring themes or questions. The survey participants for this study were members of 3 online communities regarded as key online communities by professional illustrators in Korea. The majority of the participants can be described as young female college graduates. In terms of work experience, most participants had fewer than 5 years of experience. Additionally, most participants were college graduates with art majors. Three illustrators participating in the interview had more work experiences than most of the survey participants. They all had 9 to 11 years of work experience with different major backgrounds. 2 were male and 1 was female. So let's talk about the findings. Participants answered that to shape and actualize images and to get ideas and inspiration are the primary uses of images. Actualization of images and getting inspiration may sound similar, but they are differentiated by their ultimate goals. Shaping and actualizing the artist's illustrations by using images means that the image information they use will function as data, which is retrieved for the information contained in the image. For example, illustrators will find how 16th century women's dresses have different features from other eras in the images they found so that they can create, in other words, shape and actualize illustrations. It is a substantially different activity from getting inspiration, where illustrators are inspired by looking at those images. For instance, looking at an image of a whale does not necessarily result in whale-related ideas for illustrators, but may evoke childhood memories or the magnificent features of nature. When participants decide the relevance of images, various criteria are used. While topical matter was the most common criterion at 78.6%, other relevance criteria such as images showing specific angles, temporal information of images, aesthetic quality, and high resolution were also important. When illustrators find that certain retrieved images include what they were looking for example, a crying face of a child or a peaceful-looking field, they will find those images satisfying topicality. While some criteria like angles, temporal information, or resolutions are objective, aesthetic quality was something that is quite subjective. Let's discuss it a little bit more. Some participants mentioned that the physical aspects of images such as resolution, angle, or structures are important. And here are some quotations from those participants. However, subjective aspect of images like aesthetic quality was also important. Aesthetic quality was somewhat subjective. Illustrators select certain images thinking that they are pretty, cute, or beautiful, which will be very tricky, especially to catalogers. Thus, aesthetic quality constitutes more of the illustrator's personal taste instead of something that can be objectively measured. Here's another quote from the participant. The types of images needed for illustrators are shown here in this table. And as indicated here, a wide variety of different types of images were needed rather than a few dominant types. The examples of different types of images here are like landscapes, film, nature, people, architecture, visual features including color, shape, texture, appliances, vehicles, and so on. When the illustrators needed images for their task, there were various challenges and barriers in the process of seeking images. Although irrelevant search results were the most frequently mentioned problem at 55%, there were other issues such as hard to search for a very specific image, takes too long to browse the results, and hard to think of appropriate keywords. Through an open-ended feedback on the survey, illustrators suggested a few search functions that could potentially improve their image retrieval task, especially for image professionals like themselves. Examples include more detailed classification filtering features, metadata that would allow them to sort images by their origins, temporal aspects such as the time when the images were created, as well as the time period depicted in the images, different types of layouts and angles, shapes of objects, and genres. And here's one quote from the participants who's talking about what should be improved in the current image retrieval systems. Here the participant is saying that it'll be very convenient if I can search for images within different groups of images like images of characters, photos, and images from commercials. This type of expectation of image retrieval systems is very different from what we general users usually have, which gives us an interesting insight. Previous studies found that users mainly use image information to illustrate, which means to explain or to describe certain concepts. The results of these studies contrast sharply with the current study, where the main purpose of illustrators' image retrieval was to obtain background knowledge for their illustration works. In other words, while general users are likely to use images as objects, professional illustrators who create images have a tendency to use and perceive images as data. However, this does not mean that illustrators always use images as data. As Fidel claimed in her paper, graphic artists, medical instructors, and art historians are examples of users who may retrieve images both as data and as objects, grouping them as in-between. And it is also true in this study as well. Thus, illustrators would fall into this category of in-between with a stronger tendency towards using the images as data based on the findings in this study. The results in the study also revealed the difference in the purpose of searching images between artists and illustrators. In Beaudoin's study in 2009, half of the participating artists answered that they searched images to acquire knowledge, but all 6 artists considered obtaining creative ideas an important function of image information. However, to illustrators, getting inspiration has relatively less importance than learning. The biggest difference between artists and illustrators is that generally artists need to think about what they are going to create by themselves, but illustrators are asked to create something concrete by clients. Due to the characteristics of illustration work, usually a commercial request, illustrators do not work for their own creations, but for clients' needs in most cases. What a client needs is typically very specific, such as educational picture brochure about a new criminal law or an illustration of a warrior in the Japanese Edo era with a detailed description of clothes and weapons. So the findings from this study show that illustrators do have a distinctive set of information needs and behaviors when compared to other types of image users. This suggests that the particular needs and behaviors of the target user population must be taken into consideration in order to design effective image retrieval systems. For illustrators, finding a match tends to be more important than discovery, as they typically need to find specific images of objects or environments for a specific illustrating task. An image search feature based on particular angles of the objects or postures would be especially useful, along with filtering features such as copyright, prices of images, and temporal information. In addition, robust description indexes related to the topics of images can aid their targeted search. Among the study participants, around 80% of participants had less than 5 years of work experience in illustration. The fact that many of our participants did not have much work experience may indicate that our participants represent a part of the community, not a whole. Also, it may be related to the purpose of Illustrators' online communities. In the online communities, illustrators share their illustrations, but they also exchange or seek working information as well. Therefore, illustrators who are constantly seeking new clients may constitute the major population of these online communities, instead of veteran illustrators who already have a stable clientele and do not need to find new jobs vigorously. Future studies would need to seek participants with more work experience to see if there are any differences in terms of illustrators' image information needs and behavior. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. So as usual, if folks would like to ask questions, please feel free to take the chat. We're actually going to collect those questions if folks do have them, and we'll give Luisa, who's our second speaker, and Hurim a chance to answer those questions at the end. So thank you for that great presentation, and we'll be collecting those questions, and we'll get back to that momentarily.
Sure.